Chapter 2. Cassie made coffee and Jake went to the canteen to fetch the bacon butties for the team. Early morning starts were always like this. You could say what you liked about their DI, but she believed in teamwork, and she treated her team well, as long as they did what they were supposed to do. Cassie had seen Wen take a DS apart once because he'd cocked up big style on a case. He'd fallen asleep during surveillance and let the prime suspect get away with murder right under his nose. The suspect had managed to get rid of crucial evidence, and therefore the CPS couldn't even get it into court. That DS had gone somewhere else, and Cassie had replaced him by getting her sergeant's exam just at the right moment. So far, she had enjoyed her time in the Cheshire Serious Crime Squad and found her DI hard-working and thorough. That was also what she expected from her team. Of course, Wen was there before anyone else, and no one could sneak in without being named and shamed. "It's all right for her," said a female detective who had been blasted on more than one occasion for turning up late. This was due to childcare issues. "She's got no family, just this fucking job." Who exactly did the DI have waiting for her at home? No one really knew. Someone had said she had a handicapped brother to look out for, but even that was conjecture. Wen surveyed the room. "Right, have we all got refreshments?" Nods all round. "Excellent, then I'll begin." Wen turned to the whiteboard. "Right, what do we know then?" "Sod all, that's what." "Anything from the door to door?" "No, boss," one of her officers said. "No one saw nothing, heard nothing, except a cat fight about 2 a.m, that is." Wen winced at the detective constable's explanation of the situation, not to mention his poor use of the English language. That was what happened when you lived with someone who had a master's degree in English literature. "No cars noted or heard, nothing?" "No, boss." "What about the PM, Cassie? Did that throw any light on the mode of death?" "Nothing of note on the torso, ma'am, so the bloody Red Baron suspects it was a head wound that did for him." Wen spun round. "Don't call the doctor that in front of me, do you understand?" "Sorry, ma'am, but everyone calls him that." "Not when I can hear them, they don't. We all deserve respect from our colleagues, Cassie, and I won't have anyone else disrespect anyone on my team. If you want to call each other stupid names, that just shows how infantile you are." Wen turned back to the board, knowing full well that faces were being pulled behind her. God alone knew what they called her, but as long as she didn't hear it, she didn't care. "What about DNA?" "He's on to that. It'll be a few days before he gets that back, though." Cassie had quickly regained her equilibrium. Wen noticed that was good. That was another thing she really couldn't stand, sulky staff. How many times over the years had she been made to look a fool? Too many. But she'd learned the lesson and moved on. "Any ideas why they took his feet? His hands I can understand, but his feet?" She paused, but there was silence. "Anyone?" Cassie spoke up again. "The doc thinks there might have been a deformity or a tattoo, and that would have helped with ID, but it's just a guess." "Jake, anyone of interest missing locally?" "Just 2 in the last few weeks who meet our criteria. 30-year-old from Frodsham, Paul James. He went off to some sort of folk music evening on Friday night and his partner hasn't seen him since." "And that's unusual, is it?" "Yes and no." Jake surveyed the room. Every eye was upon him, every ear listening. The floor was his. Wen had realised when Jake came to work for her that he was a show-off. That was probably why he ended up on life support after a motorbike accident. But he was also very good at his job, and he knew it. "Well, come on, boy wonder, don't leave us hanging," she said. "His boyfriend says he's done this sort of thing before. Gone off on a night out and disappeared for days at a time." And I wonder why this time was so different. So I got in touch with the local force. They say he's never been reported missing before. They've had a call to that address once, though, to a domestic. So why is he reported him missing this time? Wen said this as she wrote notes on the whiteboard. Exactly. Jake looked around the room as if he was expecting applause, and when it wasn't forthcoming, he continued. The other is a Polish lad, Vlad Milowski, who works at a local car wash. Didn't go home to his girlfriend on Saturday evening after work. The problem here is that he's an illegal, so he could have just done a flip because he thought immigration were onto him. But his girlfriend obviously has other ideas, queried Wen. Yep, she's here legally and says Vlad was waiting for his papers and he wouldn't have just gone. She reported because, and I quote, bad men are wanting him, unquote. Interesting. Good work, Jake. Keep on it. See what else you can find out. Right, Richard and Becky, get yourselves over to sunny Frodsham and question this lad's boyfriend. I want some DNA from that house. Hair, toothbrush, whatever. Try and talk to the neighbours and see if they've heard any rooks lately, okay? The two detectives nodded affirmation. Jake, flag up Paul's name at the local A&E and minor injuries unit and see if he's attended with any injuries in the last 2 years. And Cassie, come with me. My car needs cleaning. As they pulled into the car wash, Cassie parked in one of the waiting bays. No, you go straight to car wash, said a tall man with a goatee beard as he walked away from a girl he'd been talking to as they drove in. Instead, Wen and Cassie got out of their vehicle. We don't need a car wash today, thanks. Who are you? What you want? He advanced on Wen, looking slightly threatening. She took out her ID. D.I. Price, and this is my sergeant. We are all legal here. He looked as if he might want to spit on them. We're not from immigration, Mr. Mazoo, Jam Mazoo. So what do you want? We're looking for a man called Vlad Milowski. Can we speak to him, please? No one here of that name. He turned to walk away. But he worked here until recently, the detective inspector smiled. No. Wen looked at Cassie, who stepped forward. Mr. Mazoo, we have it on good authority that this man worked for you. We know he didn't have any papers, and we're not interested in that. But it's important that we trace him. Then she smiled, knowing this always threw people. I don't know this man. Now leave. Go, please. Cassie stepped even closer, this time invading Jan's personal space. This is a murder inquiry, sir. If you don't cooperate with us, we'll have no alternative but take your whole workforce in for questioning and bring in our very good friends from immigration. And he will examine all your papers, all your books, all your dealings with a very big magnifying glass. Do you understand me? This time he just nodded. So, said Wen, when did you last see him? Saturday. He did an 8 till 8 shift, then left, didn't turn up for work next day. There now, that wasn't hard, was it? Wen made some notes in her pocketbook. What's he done? Jan spoke over Cassie's head to Wen. Nothing as far as we know. Was he afraid of anyone, or did someone hold a grudge against him? Wen tried to keep eye contact with Jan. The man shook his head at this. And how long did he work for you? Wen asked the question, but Cassie stood stock still, looking at the man. Hard to say. They come, they go. A ballpark figure, then. Cassie had folded her arms and wasn't moving until she had an answer. 2, 3 months. Thank you so much, Mr. Mazur, said Wen. We'll be in touch. And if you hear anything from Vlad, please let us know at once. Wen handed the man her card and walked away, followed by Cassie, who had given him one last long look. He yelled in what sounded like Polish to the girl he'd been talking to earlier and retreated into a tiny hut. Wen suspected that Jan didn't like being told what to do, especially by women. In her peripheral vision, she saw the small dark girl bob down and pick something up from the tarmac where they'd been standing. "Excuse!" she shouted as she ran after them. Wen turned to face her. "You drop this," she said, holding out a scrap of paper. Yes, you drop this," said the girl imploringly. Yes, of course, thank you so much." She took the note and watched the girl go back to the hut, glancing once at them with a quick smile. Wen and Cassie got back in the car, and as they pulled away, Wen opened the scrap of paper. On it was a written address and a time, 9 p.m. "Guess you and me are on overtime tonight, Cassie," said Wen. In Frodsham, Becky Wainwright knocked on the door of a very nice terraced cottage on the main street. Richard was speaking to Jake on his phone. "Thanks, mate, that's very interesting. Catch you later." "What's very interesting?" "About the A&E visits." "What about them?" Just then the door was opened by a dejected-looking individual, tall, lanky, and wearing a robe over his vest and pants. "Yes." "Mr. Wall?" "Yes, what do you want? If it's God you're trying to sell me, you can fuck off, because do you know what? There's no such fucking God." Becky and Richard produced their ID cards at the same time, like well-practiced magicians. "DC Wainwright and DC Jones, Mr. Wall, from Cheshire Serious Crime Squad. We'd like to talk to you about Paul James." With that, the man crumpled to the floor. "Oh, God, oh God, he's dead, isn't he? Oh, God." As they helped Mr. Wall into the house, Becky reflected on how many times people renounced the Almighty, only to reinstate him when they needed his help. As he slumped into an armchair, sobbing, the two detectives looked at each other. "Mr. Wall, we have no reason to think that Paul is dead." He looked up. "And what are you doing here?" "We're making inquiries into a case, and we need to eliminate some missing men." "What sort of case?" "Have you a recent photo of Paul which we could borrow?" She could see the man falling to pieces in front of them, and wanted to halt the process by giving him something else to think about, something to do. "And a hairbrush, maybe." "What? Yes." He began to get up. "It can wait till later, Mr. Wall. First, can we ask you why you reported Paul as a missing person?" Richard sat down close to the man, leaning towards him and making his body language friendly. "You told the local police he's done this sort of thing before. What makes it different this time?" "The other times..." Mr. Wall looked very uncomfortable. "The other times was when we'd quarrelled. This time we were okay. We turned a corner. We were happy." "Did you hit your boyfriend, Mr. Wall?" said Becky, glaring at him. "What? No, I never hit Paul, never." He pulled at the material on his robe in a distracted way. "No," said Richard, "but he's beaten you up, hasn't he?" "What?" cried Becky, staring at her partner. He didn't mean to," said Mr. Wall. He has issues, but he's been getting help." "Now let me get this straight," Becky said. "In the past, he's gone walkabout after physically assaulting you." "Wasn't that bad." Richard unlocked his phone, opened his emails, and read the extract from what Jake had just sent him. "A fractured cheekbone, 4 fractured ribs, 1 concussion." "Stop, please, just stop." The man looked at the floor. "I love him, and he didn't come on Friday, after we'd had a wonderful day together. I'd cooked supper, we were going to watch a movie. That was when he got back from the gig, but he didn't get back, I mean." He started to cry again. "You didn't go with him," said Becky. "Why was that?" Mr. Wall stared at her. "Folk music? I'd rather stick pins in my eyes." "Fair answer," said Richard, who thought the only music worth listening to was rock. "OK, Mr. Wall, let's take a full description." Becky got out her pocketbook, feeling that they might be onto something here.